To Miss Sakina, time is yours.
Okay. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good day, everyone. Welcome again to the afternoon session of the second International Conference of Applied Psychology and Humanity, Living Harmoniously and Inclusively in 5.0 Era. Ladies and gentlemen, I am Sakina Nurrohma, the moderator of this afternoon session. I'm very pleased to see you and welcome all of you in this session. Hope you still have full energy, right? After all the activity from the morning, welcoming, ceremony, and then the first speaker session and also call for paper. Dear all the participants who joined offline in the hall and also offline via Zoom, before we are going to the speaker session, I would like to remind the online participant, please, to mute your microphone and also turn on your camera. Well, in this second session, we have two amazing speakers. Professor Xuan Min Wei, or usually we call as Prof. Black from Asia University, Taiwan, and also Professor Deborah Turnbull from the University of Adelaide, Australia. I think they have joined us in the Zoom. Hello, Prof. Black and Prof.
Hello.
Deborah.
Hello everyone.
Okay. Our first speaker is Prof. Black, and I will let you know the background of him. He is an associate professor in Department of Psychology and also the chairperson of the Taiwan Applied Psychology Association. He received his PhD in social psychology in Birmingham University, United Kingdom, and his expertise is in gender issues and also stereotype. He did a lot of international publication, and one of them is online mental health services during COVID-19 pandemic in Indonesia, challenges psychologists from psychologist perspective. Today, Prof. Black will deliver his presentation about when applied psychology meets sustainable development goals, or we know as SDGs, in the metaverse era. I want to inform to the participant that we will have Q&A session after Prof. Black presentation, and for Prof. Black, you have 30 minutes for presentation, and we will let you know if the 5 minutes left. All right, now without further ado, let's start our speaker session with Prof. Black.
Okay, dear all of you, and I'm quite happy to be here because I still remember around like 1 month ago, I was in UMM as well. I brought some students to there and to do our internship in UMM. We have the wonderful time there. So I think today is a very good chance to have all of you in the conference. And today I'm going to share with you about the topic when applied psychology meets SDGs in the metaverse. And I'm the Sun Mingwei, also you can call me Blake, and I come from the Taiwan. And also, I think today is a very good time to share all of us, because as we know, after the pandemic, we have the new year, and we need to create our new life. And also because of the internet, or we can call it AI development, we can see a lot of the challenge in psychology. And also today, I'm going to share some of the idea about the SDGs and the metaverse, and also try to indicate what we can do in the applied psychology in the future in our field. So right now, I will start my presentation, and actually I have the 30 minutes, but right now I will try to finish on time. So yeah, this is my title. And also, as we know, the SDGs is very important at this moment. And in this SDGs, we can know there are 17 the goal we are going to fulfill in the future, especially before the 2030s. Because since 2015, our UN United Nationalities, they are going to create these 17 SDGs goals. In here, it's including some topics, especially they want all countries, including the developed and developing countries, to can be fulfill these 17 goals. And this is these goals including kind of the mental health, like the education, or reduce the population, and also maybe we can try to have a nice environment to protect our resources on the earth. So this is very important goals. So in this SDGs, we can also know that because we want to know if we can try to protect our environment, maybe we can continue our life, and especially for our offspring and for our kids or children. Yeah. So that's the reason they asked us to do the many goals to fulfill those requirements. So actually in DSDG, they also try to make some the good progress, and also they also want to play a very good important features. For example, like the DSDGs, they play a very key role in the UN, and also they want to fulfill those requirements in before the 2030s. So if we count, we still have the couple years to fulfill. So maybe we know those SDGs. So in here, I try to use one video. It's come from the UN. And in this video, they were talking about or give us a very brief introduction about SDGs. So maybe we can try to enjoy this movie.
In September 2015, the member states of the UN adopted the 2030 Agenda and its 17 Sustainable Development Goals. Under this unified agenda, the international community combined the commitments to sustainable development that were made at the UN's Rio+20 conference with the process of renewing the Millennium Development Goals implemented between 2000 and 2015. What's new about the 2030 Agenda is its universal nature. Its 17 goals apply to all member states, not simply the poor countries and the populations of the South. Furthermore, each of these goals must be achieved in a way which respects the three dimensions of sustainable development: social, economic, and environmental. Among the 17 goals that have been identified are those relating to poverty, education, energy, gender equality, environmental conservation, responsible consumption and production, and the fight against climate change. The universal nature of the 2030 Agenda means that each of the 17 Sustainable Development Goals will be implemented differently in different countries. For example, while certain countries continue to struggle with hunger, others should be more concerned with promoting a healthy diet and combating obesity. While Switzerland throws away a third of its food, other countries lose a significant proportion of their harvests because of inadequate storage. And while certain populations are concerned about access to energy, many others consume enormous amounts and need to find a solution to reduce this consumption and its impact on the environment. Switzerland played an important role in the drafting of the 2030 Agenda. For example, it has a particular interest in some of the issues included in the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. such as health, gender equality, water and peace. Switzerland is also concerned about some of the cross-cutting aspects which must be considered, such as means of sustainable consumption and production, or reducing disaster risk. The 2030 Agenda will therefore impact directly on how Switzerland's international cooperation develops, as it helps to implement the goals at the international level. Nationally, the 17 Sustainable Development Goals will be factored to a greater extent into domestic policy decisions and statements to the Swiss people. Everyone is responsible for putting the 2030 Agenda into practice. Its adoption also marks a shift in the way in which sustainable development is approached and implemented. Individual citizens, civil society, the private sector, the scientific community, the cantons and communes. There are many actors who can pool their skills and interests to make the 17 Sustainable Development Goals a reality. All sources of funding will be important in realizing sustainable development, be they public, private, national or international. The systematic implementation of projects funded in public-private partnerships is one example of how synergies can be created and more money mobilized. By working together, we can enable everyone to live a life of dignity. But we must ensure that economic and social development is not achieved at the expense of the environment. It is an approach that is as ambitious as it is promising, and one to which Switzerland is committed by adopting the 2030 Agenda and its 17 Sustainable Development Goals.
Okay, so by watching this video, probably we can understand more about the SDGs. And also in the video, it also shows countries, they can have their goal, their specific goal. So they don't need to do all of them, but they can try to find out some of the goal they are needed and to do. So they use the Switzerland as an example. And also I'm thinking about so the different professional field like the psychology, we can also try to find out what we can do. So maybe in the later slide, I'm trying to share with us about how can we do in psychology field. And also in the video, they also mentioned about SDGs. They have the 3 different levels, like the environment, like the society or economics. And actually, I think our psychologists, we can focusing on the middle level, like the society level. And here we can try to do a lot for our publication, for our public. And also if we can try to increase our economic, that is another good issue. So maybe we can try to have this rough idea about the SDGs. And actually in the different papers, they also have already mentioned or taking care or focusing on the psychology of the SDGs. For example, this paper from the from 2017, they also indicate that psychology of the SDGs can be the substantial, not only from protecting the ecologically, and they can also try to protect the public life. So in here, the substantiality can refer to something that is the last for a period of the time. So I think that is a very important idea. And also in here, they also mention about the 3E, like the economy and the equality, and also the ecologies. And also, as we know, right now there is another study field in psychology we call climate psychology. Climate psychology, that means people, they will be influenced by the environment they live around. So that's the reason we need to mention about that. So the 3E is also important idea from our applied psychology. So in here, the substantiality is not only from a traditional, the ecological or the social contextual perspective, but they also from the promoting the well-being of all the people. So I think that is also we need to taking care about that. And also in these papers, they also mention about we can try to do the more policy or the research to improve the individuals, their daily life, and also their mental health. I think that would be the important too, especially for their well-being. Yeah, in Chinese cultures, well-being is also very important factors in our daily life. If we look back to the couple years ago in psychology, first of all, they only taking care of about the happiness, but after some researches they are doing about the mental health, they also thinking that the well-being is different to the happiness, and also well-being is the much important rather than the happiness. So I think that is a very important issue in here also. So in this paper, they also want to ask us to think about that. Not only where does I come from, and also maybe we can think about where we can go. So in this saying, maybe we need to think about that. What kind of where is the places we are going to help our public to have the better mental health. So maybe that is the main idea about the psychology in SDGs. And also, after the meta-center approach, maybe we can try to find out some of the factors. So later, I'm going to show us about how we can do in the different field of psychology. Maybe I can just try to indicate a few rough idea, and maybe all of you and you can try to think more about in your field what we can do for the public as well. So in here, that the meta center, we can base on all the researches and find out what kind of the factor we can do in the SDGs. So actually, we need to say that the people, they will be influenced by the SDGs in the future. And if the different countries, we have the different goal, we can try to put more efforts in our specific goal. So we don't need to fulfill all the goals, but we can try our best to do the goal we needed right now. And this is the paper. So if we have the idea, we can try to look back to those papers. And also, this another paper is talking about the psychology and the SDGs. So in here, they also mention about many goals can be linked to our science or profession of psychology. So that means SDGs actually can be applied, by the SDGs in psychology. And also, for example, like the SDGs 1, no poverty. That means we can try to help people. They are not be influenced by their poverty. For example, like the education, for even like their the life satisfactions, and also like the SDGs 5. SDGs 5. That means the gender equality. So in here, maybe we can try to think about how can we try to do to help all the genders, they would be treat equalities. And also SDG 3 is related to the mental health and also the well-being. In here, maybe we can focus on how to help people, they have the better health, including the physical or the mental health, and also they have the higher well-being as well. So in this paper, they also try to say that SDGs is very close to the psychology, and the psychology they can be very important way we can do for our public as well. So the second part, I'm going to talk about the metaverse. As we know, in a couple of years ago, the metaverse is a new term, but it's getting popular in our daily life. Especially, we can see that Meta, they try to talk about like the Facebook established. They try to talk about the metaverse is a very important technology in the future, and they also can try to use in the Facebook or the IG all the other social medias, and especially when we have the very high internet speed, we can try to use the metaverse very nicely. For example, we can do in the medical care. For example, in some area, they have a long distance to the city, so probably they don't have enough the medical equipment. But right now we are trying to use the metaverse. We can try to use the online to make the decision what kind of disease of the patient, and also sometimes we can use the robot. We can use the robot to make some of the surgery. So this is also important technology in here. So what is the metaverse? We can try to say that they have the virtual reality, or interactivities, or the independence economic system, or the creativities as well. So in here, metaverse, they also important here. So right now, I also use another video, try to talk about what is the metaverse.
We all spend a good chunk of our time on the internet every day, be it watching videos on YouTube or just browsing social media. As of 2022, 69% of the world's population uses the internet. Now imagine if this invisible network of data becomes something you can see and interact with. Instead of just watching your friends' pictures on Instagram, you can interact with them in real time. Instead of just watching through a screen, you can immerse yourself in that environment for the most realism. This is where the metaverse comes in. But what even is the metaverse? The term metaverse was coined by writer Neal Stephenson in his 1992 science fiction novel Snow Crash. Stevenson described the metaverse in his novel as a vast digital universe that exists alongside the actual world. The metaverse is a virtual reality environment where users can communicate with a computer-generated environment and other participants. In the long run, it will essentially act as a 3D version of the internet. Furthermore, Mark Zuckerberg, the CEO of Meta, predicts that the core elements of the metaverse will take 5 to 10 years to become mainstream. However, the metaverse is rapidly expanding. You can see those ultra-fast internet connections, virtual reality headgear, and permanent always-on online worlds are already operational. If you currently own any cryptocurrency, virtual reality hardware, or even an NFT, you are already a part of the metaverse. Although the metaverse is significantly more vast than a video game, it appears that the gaming world has already embraced it. Consider the online game Fortnite, in which users have a personalized avatar with which they connect and interact amongst themselves, while also collecting virtual currency to buy costumes and upgrades for their avatar. According to engineers, the metaverse will elevate the virtual reality experience to a new level, allowing players to float into the virtual environment to do anything from buying land and hosting parties to even getting married using digital avatars. The metaverse is being developed further using mixed reality technology, which blends VR, which stands for virtual reality, and AR, meaning augmented reality. With the elements of touch and smell being a part of the metaverse experience, the immersion is further enhanced by haptic feedback, which provides vibrations for certain actions. The concept of the metaverse has greatly benefited from the introduction of VR devices like Oculus and HTC Vive. Games made specifically for VR headsets are already extremely profitable. AR takes this a step further by using technology to improve the user's sense of reality. But how will the metaverse provide an upgrade over the current internet from an application standpoint? The ability to interact physically with people thousands of miles away without investing in travel costs will benefit both personal and professional conditions. Students in schools can put their wild ideas to the test without having to subject themselves to the risks associated with certain materials. Allowing medical professionals to assist or even perform surgeries from the other end of the world will be a life-saving benefit. The digital economy is also strengthened by introducing cryptocurrency and NFTs in the metaverse. Similar-minded individuals can connect in the metaverse and exchange thoughts about each other's growth and prosperity. Avatars provide for simple interaction with whomever you choose during your metaverse interactions. There are, however, a few concerns with the advent of the metaverse. Users may be diverted onto a street or guided into a risky physical circumstance, such as robbery or mugging, as AR technology enters the picture. Businesses will need to make advanced preparations to ensure their AR and VR systems are not exploited, either internally by unethical management looking to violate the privacy of their coworkers and subordinates, or externally by hackers. A full metaverse where lifelike exchanges are feasible is still years away, despite the fact that the core concept of being able to interact in a virtual online environment has been around for many years. Microsoft co-founder Bill Gates highlighted that most people lack the VR goggles and motion tracking gloves to precisely record their emotions, body language, and voice quality. But according to Gates, in the next 2 to 3 years, most online meetings will switch from two-dimensional square rooms to the metaverse, a 3D environment where participants interact with virtual avatars. So here's a question for you. Who was the first artist to perform a concert on the metaverse? Travis Scott, Daylor Mendy, or Justin Bieber? Give the correct answer and your reasoning and stand a chance to win an Amazon voucher. Think about it and leave your answers in the comments section, and we will provide the answer next week. We hope you found this informative and helpful. If you've enjoyed this video, a thumbs up would really be appreciated.
Okay, so by watching this video, we can know the metaverse, and also we can understand the AR and VR is quite important in the metaverse. So as the video, they indicate that in the couple years after, maybe we need to use the goggles or other equipment to help us to do something, even in our meeting or in our daily life, even in our learning. So I think the metaverse is also important idea for us. So for the psychologists, how can we use those technology? But actually, I need to emphasize that I didn't meaning that our psychologists need to know those equipment or the technology. But we can use those technology as the mediation, and we can try to use those technology to doing in our research or our program. I think that is the most important topic. So in here, we also know that in our classes, we also use the MOOCs. Yeah, the MOOCs is a new learning strategy in our classes. And also right now, students can use all of the equipment, even the internet or the app on the internet. They can use those to learning. For example, like the hot issue like the ChatGPT. Right now, ChatGPT is more popular in school, but right now we also afraid of that. If the student they use the ChatGPT to doing their homework or just ask the ChatGPT to do the homework by them, for them, I think that is not our goal. So maybe they need to use the ChatGPT as the tool, as the equipment, but not just ask the ChatGPT to do the homework for them. So I think sometimes we need to also think about this AI issue, and also to do some about the discussion about the ethics things. So right now I use the last 5 minutes to talk about how can we try to combine the SDGs or the metaverse in our psychology. For example, here I try to emphasize a few topics. For example, like the first one, in the SDG 1, that means the no poverty. So maybe we can make the use of the virtual spaces to reduce the learning gap. So in that case, maybe we can help the people living in some area, those areas have the lower economic social status. Maybe they can try to use the goggles to learn, and also if they can have the nice devices, they can also learn like the people they learn in the big city. Also, we can also cross the individual economic differences, or try to help those people to have the better chance to get the more knowledge. And the second one is I want to talk about SDG 3. In here, that is good health and well-being. So in here, we can also try to provide online professional consulting service, or we can use the virtual consultants group, allow clients to carry out the group activities. And also we can try to provide the multiple realistic equipment, and we can try to help them. For example, I try to emphasize one program we have already used in Taiwan. As we know, some people, they have the cancer, and some people, when they have the very serious situations, they are going to live in the hospice. Hospice means a special patient ward. In there, they almost have the last 6 months to live. So in there, sometimes they are quite weak to go back home to see their family or to see their previous houses. So in our womb, we are going to use the VR to create their houses, and then ask them to use the goggle to try to feel or try to enjoy the VR to remember their family. They are still loving them. So I think that is also important in the hospice home. And the third one is the SDGs 4. This is the quality education. In here, as we mentioned before, we can try to create a more different, multiple way to fulfill the need from the students. And also we can try to establish the adaptive learning material, and we can change all their appropriate learning difficulty at any time. So students, they can try to learn anytime, any places, and any situation and any need. So they can try to find a good study program to fit their level, and they don't need to follow all the classmates. And I think that is also important for our psychology to do in the future. And the last one is the SDGs 5, that means the gender equality. In here, we can also establish a learning environment without any gender stereotype. We can try to prevent the negative influence from the gender stereotype. As we know, sometimes we have the gender stereotype threat. In here, we can try to prevent that. And also, we can create a new theory of the interpersonal relationship, because sometimes we are chatting with friends, with our family members online. So maybe our interpersonal relationship has been changed. So in here, we also need to create the new theory to do that. So I think that is all the content I'm going to share all with you. Sorry. The last one is the SDG 8 and SDG 9. In here, it's related to the business or the working places. In here, we also can try to use the metaverse to change the traditional paper or instrumental test. We can use the metaverse to create some the situation, use the VR or AR to create those test situation to find out the proper person we are going to see. And also we can try to screen. If we have the many options or the audience, we can try to screen there by this using the metaverse as well. So it will help for our industry or organization psychology as well. So thank you very much, and my time is up. And also I hope we can have the very good discussion later. So my presentation is finished now. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Prof. Black, for giving us such a wonderful presentation. Now we are moving to question and answer session. Maybe any participants in the hall want to have question, please raise your hand and mention your name and also your affiliation. Anyone? Or maybe the online participants, if you have any question, please you can raise your hand. I mean, using emoticon, of course. Or maybe you can write the question in the chat box.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, you can also leave in the chat box. It's okay.
Right. Do we have question in the chat box? Okay, I have one participant that want to ask question.
Okay, hello, Professor Blake. Can
Hello.
you hear my voice? Yes. Okay, my name is Sullivan. I'm from Universitas Muhammadiyah Malang.
Yes, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. I'm just curious, in your experience, what are the practices that you have done in relation to the SDGs and also the metaverse? Like, have you applied it before? And if you did, what was the most challenging thing that you find, so that we can understand what are the challenges to do this SDGs and metaverse? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Sullivan.
Thank you, Ota. I think this is a very important questions as well. So also, of course, yeah, I try to apply or to establish some researches on those topics. For example, I give the two examples. The first one is I just mentioned about in the hospital. Yeah, in the hospital, we also use the VR to help the people they have the cancer. So by using the VR, those patients, they can just try to remember the houses they lived before, and also they can try to talk to their family members by the VR. So I think that is very good for their mental health. I mean, also their well-being. So their well-being score will be increased. The second research is about the gender equalities. Yeah, as we mentioned about sometimes some testing situation like the mathematics test, the situation will increase or induce the stereotype threat, the gender stereotype threat for the female student. So if we can create the neutral environment, maybe the female, they can perform their real abilities. So I also do find the result to support my hypothesis. So I think that is also important. So as you mentioned about what is difficulty when I apply those two important topics, the SDGs and the metaverse in the study. I think the most important thing is the connection. I mean, the different field connection. For example, I am not the technology person. I need those equipment. I need those program. I need someone to help me to build up that the programming. So in that case, we can have the very good cross culture or the cross field research team. So I think that is the most important thing. So right now, I think in this conference, I think this is also the good platform. We can try to connect all of the different fields together, and we can working on those topics, researches. So I think that is my answer.
Okay. Do you have any feedbacks, Sullivan? Okay. Thank you, Prof. Lek, for your information. Prof. Lek also one of the head in the gender laboratory in Asia University. That is why he is really into the gender equality issue, I think. Okay. Other question maybe for the offline participant? Anyone? Please raise your hand, don't be shy. Or yes. Maybe the online participants? Okay, or maybe Prof. Lek, do you want to have closing remarks for your presentation?
Yes. Actually, I think for us, I think for our psychologists, all the students in the Department of the Psychology, I think we need to learn all the time, especially for the new technology or the new programs, actually. Because I think the people, they will be influenced by the environment, especially for when we have the very quickly internet increasing or the technology increasing. In this case, we need to learn all the time. So even though we are the faculty in university, we are still trying to learn that. So I hope or I wish we can learn together, even the faculty or the students, we can learn together and we can use the very a very new skill to do some research and also to create a new or a better life for our public. So that is my remark. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Black. Please give applause for our speakers. All right, now we are going to the second speakers. Professor Deborah Turnbull from University of Adelaide, Australia. Hello, Prof. Deb. How is going? I think it's evening now.
Hello,
in
everyone.
Adelaide.
It is. I'm just setting up my screen for you all.
Okay, so I will let you know about the background of Prof. Deborah. She is the chair of Psychology Department at the University of Adelaide. He received her PhD at University of Sydney, and her expertise in adult mental health, well-being, and health behaviors. She annually gets research grant from Australia government and other foundation, and one of her research publication is a self-help online intervention is associated with reduced distress and improved mental well-being in Australian farmers. Today, Prof. Deborah will present topic about harmony and inclusivity, reflection from Australian psychology. All right, Prof. Deborah, you have 30 minutes and we will let you know if 5 minutes left. All right, without further ado, please welcome Professor Deborah Turnbull.
Terra Makasi, can I begin by checking that everyone can hear me okay? Nina, can you?
Yeah. Sure.
Great, thank you. All right, well, Salamat Malam from Australia. It's evening here, and it's been a beautiful, warm spring day here, and so I'm delighted to be meeting with you all. So I would like to begin by thanking Universitas Muhammadiyah for inviting me to present this evening. And the title that I've been given by my Indonesian colleagues is Living Harmoniously and Inclusively in the 5.0 era. So on this slide, you can see a few images, and I've put this up here because it reminds me that it's customary in our university to begin our presentations by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land. And the University of Adelaide is based on Kaurna country. And I would like to acknowledge the Kaurna elders, both in the past and in the present, and our emerging elders. And you can see in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen an image of the 14 students that I recently brought to Indonesia as part of a Australian government-funded study tour. And I'm sharing this with you because one of the goals of this particular initiative is to do with promoting our values of diversity and inclusivity. And our students come from many different backgrounds. In about 40% of Australians either were born overseas or have at least one parent born overseas. And that would include me, and my student body certainly represents that fact. So the challenge that I've been given to speak to today is to do with the New Era 5.0. It is, I think, in many ways aligned with the notion of the so-called metaverse that we've just heard about. And within this concept, humans are at the center of innovation and technological transformation. And they have been centered in that way with the goal of improving quality of life, it's solving important social problems in much the same way, I think, as the Sustainable Development Goals have been positioned, and well-being with the support of technology. So this image on the right-hand side really, I think, depicts this notion of realising societal benefit through a highly connected and integrated digital world. So this notion of Era 5.0 grows from that of the previous era of Era 4.0, which was to do with creating the so-called information society, motivated by the development of new information technologies, where a society where information is regarded as a very valuable resource, where citizens can really create, use, share and integrate technology and information, particularly for the benefit of multiple endpoints, economic, political and cultural, for example. So I say this because I have to say it is the case that in Australia, compared with in Indonesia, the notion of the Era 5.0 is not particularly talked about in any great way within psychology. In fact, I had to go and explore for myself what was meant by the 5.0 era. And certainly what I found was that that the notion is being used quite extensively in Indonesia. And this article from a engineering journal in 2019 is illustrative of that particular use. So in this particular article, a group of researchers assessed with over 190 Indonesian ICT firms using statistical tools a new business model which was premised on experience and agility, so-called experience and agility with a digital base. So I found that very interesting as a starting point, that Era 5.0 seems to be in more common use in Indonesia than Australia. So I then wanted to explore a little bit more about this notion of, digital transformation, and particularly in the context of the brief that I'd been given, which was Era 5.0 and its implications for harmony and inclusivity. And certainly some writings have been done to this effect. And this is a piece that's recently been published, which makes the point that in our contemporary world, where digitization, the virtual world, being permanently online, where those things have become the new normal, in their most diverse forms, what we have to be very careful about is not forgetting the people who've been excluded from this reality of digitization and the digital world. And so I think that really sets the scene for what I'm going to talk about. So when we think about Era 5.0, the paradigm rests on three particular planks. An industrial plank, which is to do with using tools such as artificial intelligence to optimize industry and profit outputs. An educational plank, where digitization and technology are used to maximize educational outcomes, where the student is given more personalized education is equipped with the ability to solve problems, to think creatively, and to critically assess situations. And the third plank, which is the one that I'm going to focus on today, which is to do with Era 5.0 in terms of society. So creating a situation where we have innovation and creativity in a so-called super smart society, where we've got innovation and a situation where so-called digital transformation enhances human well-being. So it's this notion of transformation and human well-being which I'm going to focus on today. So this presentation is about Society 5.0, where it's a concept where community life orientated to the development and use of technology creates a better community life, allowing for the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals. And it was quite delightful to hear the previous presenter base his presentation on the SDGs, because I think it speaks to the interconnectivity of all of these notions. So I'm going to be focusing on digital transformation on human well-being. So this notion of if I can just, okay. So my aim this evening is to provide you with two examples of my recent research that I do with multidisciplinary and multicultural teams related to Society 4.0, and then to comment on the implications for 5.0 transformation. I'm going to be reflecting on this research in relation to the themes that I've been given, which is inclusivity and harmony. The first piece is about using technology for enhancing inclusivity, in this instance with regard to accessing mental health services. Then I'm going to pivot to giving a piece of research where digital transformation is in fact being used in a way which is at odds with harmony. And I'm going to share with you some recent research in relation to cyberbullying. But before we begin, I did want to briefly reflect on the fact that, inclusivity and harmony often happens in my country via mechanisms entirely outside of technological transformation. So in 2001, the first special advisor to the UN Secretary General on sport for the development of society and for peace was established. And that particular role has been focused on promoting sport as a cost-effective way to accomplish the Millennial Development Goals, and critically to develop and promote peace. And so certainly in my country, in Australia, the use of sport as opposed to technological devices has been often used to promote harmony and inclusivity, particularly in the context of a multicultural Australia. A multicultural Australia where, as I said, almost half of us have been born overseas and or have parents overseas. Multicultural Australia is one of the organisations which has been tasked for promoting sport as a vehicle in this instance. So to that end, a recent piece of work that I've undertaken with a multicultural group, this is the work of Ella Mansell, and this work includes both non-Indigenous Australians such as myself and First Nations people. And this piece of work is to do with examining community sport and recreation as a vehicle for health and well-being, specifically with Indigenous communities. Why did we do this? Well, it is the case that many of our elite athletes are First Nations peoples. But at the same time, the data indicate that frequently First Nations peoples are routinely excluded from participation in sport, routinely excluded particularly from community sport and recreation. So we wanted to understand, well, what are the experiences of First Nations peoples in participating in these particular activities, particularly given that, they're often promoted as vehicles for harmony and inclusivity. So we conducted a qualitative systematic review and meta-aggregation. We collected data from 27 studies, and it included 10 from Australia and 11 from Canada, 5 from New Zealand, and 1 from the United States. And what we found in this bottom left-hand box, we found that, yes, community sport was often an important facilitator of physical health. At the same time, it could be experienced as a barrier to physical health. It was frequently experienced by First Nations people, frequently experienced racism and discrimination. And whilst it did promote social and emotional well-being and community spirit, frequently First Nations people were negatively impacted. So our recommendation was that really, in order for culturally safe sport and recreation environments to be the case for everyone, our sports bureaucrats really had to ensure that racism and discrimination needed to be addressed. So that was the way that, these holistic benefits, including inclusivity and harmony through sport, these are the things that need to happen within our society. So I share that with you as an example of some recent work conducted by First Nations peoples with non-First Nations peoples like myself, working together with a real spirit of trying to develop an evidence base for inclusivity and harmony. So now I've done that, I'm going to present to you in the next 15 minutes 2 pieces of work. The first one, study 1, is an example of using technology to enhance inclusivity in access to mental health services. And why are we doing this? Well, nearly 1 billion people around the world live with a diagnosable mental health disorder. In my country, in any year, about 1 in 5 Australians will experience a mental health disorder. The challenge is that most people with mental health conditions don't have access to effective care. And in my country, that particularly happens for people who live in rural and remote areas, and that frequently these people are from farming backgrounds. So if you look at this particular map, this particular map highlights that very beautifully. We have a national insurance scheme. It funds mental health services. But what you can see is that in our more remote areas, so these ones that I'm pointing to now, these remote areas of the country, only 2% of the population have regular access to publicly insured mental health services. In places such as closer to our eastern seaboard, where most of our population live, much higher percentages of our population. Still not perfect, but that really speaks to, lack of inclusivity of access. So why is this happening? Well, there are numerous structural barriers, which, I've just pointed to. then it's not just to do with availability, but it's also to do with, services not having capacity and affordability of services. But critically, in addition to that, there are significant cultural barriers, particularly for people who are involved in our farming industries. And there's good evidence included from teams that I'm involved in that farming communities often face quite significant cultural barriers. They face the belief systems of those communities are often to do with high levels of individuality, high levels of independence, where people are very reluctant to reach out and seek help. And issues of stigma and discrimination within the rural and remote communities and the farming communities can be quite well developed. So, what do we do about this? What's the response? Well, as in Indonesia, one of the responses has been technology. And many of you here, in fact, I would say most of you here will be very familiar with the argument for e-mental health. You know what it is. It's enhance the delivery of services via the internet and related technologies. These services can be fully self-guided, or they can incorporate assistance from peer discussion, from emailed support, etc. So, the advantages are as follows. Smartphones are everywhere. People can access these services depending on where they live. They can be relatively more convenient. And in Australia, internet services, even in the rural and remote areas, are improving all the time. The disadvantages, you'll all be aware of. People are worried about privacy and engagement, and keeping people engaged and online for long enough to achieve mental health outcomes can be a challenge. So what I'm going to share with you is a piece of work done by one of the teams I work with. The leader of this team is Associate Professor Kate Gunn, who comes from a farming family. And this is a tool that's called iFarmWell. iFarmWell. It's a free online tool to help farmers cope effectively with life's challenges. It's free, by all means, you can Google it and have a look at it. Obviously, there's lots of cultural differences between Indonesia and Australia, but, you might find it interesting to have a look at. Now, why did we do it? Well, it is the case that farmers suffer from disproportionately high levels of mental health distress, and particularly now because Australia's climate is warming and it's really impacting on farming productivity. So this graph, points to that, that since we started to collect records in 1910, our climate is continually warming. This is impacting on mental health, and farmers are in a situation where they oftentimes cannot control what's happening on their farm and the environmental impact. So these are the design features of the tool that I've just shared with you. It's based on acceptance commitment therapy. It's designed to address barriers to engagement. It's got interactive modules. It's designed to really speak to the farmers using farming-related jokes and metaphors. And it includes other tools like reminder messages and personalised support. It's been very widely and comprehensively evaluated. It was built through a co-design process. We had 18 farmers give us information about what they liked. We did intervention mapping. We drafted, we reviewed, we got qualitative feedback. We made a website prototype, and then we did amendments prior to further testing and optimization. We've examined completion rates with people who are registered to use the site. We've looked at acceptability amongst people who've used it. We've get a qualitative feedback, and then we've made an adaptive trial design. And what we're finding, this tool is getting very sound feedback, high levels of acceptability. Star rating, where 5 is the best rating, we've got a 4 out of 5 rating. Really importantly is that approximately 37% of people who started the first module completed all modules. Importantly, the reasons for not completing was not necessarily that people didn't like it, was that they were just too busy. And importantly, that previous module acceptability wasn't predicting whether or not people continued to engage with the tool. So this is a tool built in with ERA 4.0 ethos. The challenges going forward for complete transformation, I think, are to do with ongoing monitoring and updating of the tool. These tools constantly need to be updated. This particular tool has got a clinical psychologist who is available online, so it is very resource intensive. How do we develop these tools which then can be subsequently disseminated at a population level? The second study is in contrast to that one, and that is when harmony and inclusivity are impacted negatively by digital tools. And this piece is about adolescent cyberbullying, and it's recently been very recently published. The senior author is Dr. Sarah Halliday, who did her PhD with a team that included both university and researchers within the public sector. And why do we do it? Well, there is a knowledge gap, even though we know that cyberbullying creates lots of negative outcomes for young people. Interestingly, there's a knowledge gap about the impact of early adolescent cyberbullying. So before 13 years, before typically smartphones are able to be used, theoretically at least. So we collected data from over 9,000 South Australian students, very early adolescents, 10 to 13 years, who reported cyberbullying in grade 6. This is an annual survey that's conducted within our state school system by our Department of Education, and it explored the relationship with emotional well-being and academic performance in grades 7 and 8. And we accounted for a full range of covariates to reduce the possibility that the data could be explained by factors other than cyberbullying. And this is what we found, that being a victim of cyberbullying was significantly associated with lower levels of happiness, life satisfaction, and higher levels of sadness and worries over the short term, so over 12 months. And interestingly, it had an impact in grade 8 with lower levels of reading and numeracy, illustrated by this particular slide. And you can see things like the dark grey are the children who reported being a victim of cyberbullying, the light grey, those children who did not. And you can see here, and I hope you can see my indicator, significant elevations in sadness, significant elevations in worries. Also, reduced levels of happiness. Academic achievement, across the board. The children who were cyberbullying victims in the dark grey, poorer reading, poorer numeracy in grade 7 and grade 9. So, the challenges for ERA 5.0, well, I think these data have got important implications for awareness raising for our counsellors of students. You know, typically we know that cyberbullying affects children who are in later adolescence, maybe 15, 16 years of age, but now we're seeing it in earlier adolescence. It's also got implications for, I think, the way that we design in the future in ERA 5.0 digital interventions and, importantly, working with individual students. So, again, I'd like to thank UMM and Nina for their very generous offer for me to share our data with you today and tonight for me. And in summary, I think that inclusivity and harmony are absolutely essential bedrocks for the ongoing successful societies, multicultural societies that we have in Australia and I know in Indonesia from my very regular visits to Indonesia. What I've done is shown with you tonight 2 Australian research examples of technology in relation to this notion of harmony and inclusivity, and to put to you as the audience that I think for achieving the digital transformation, which is, you know, I think at the heart of the promise of ERA 5.0, we need to continue to work as psychology researchers in conjunction with peers from other disciplines to ensure that information technologies are continually updated, that they're developed in evidence-based ways with harmony and inclusivity at the heart, that we monitor and that we adapt and that we continue to integrate these technologies into human life. Terima kasih.
All right, thank you, Professor Deborah, for an interesting and informative presentation. But unfortunately, because we only have limited time, so we have no Q&A session in this speaker session. But maybe if you want to have further discussion or maybe collaboration with Professor Deborah, you can reach her by email. I will mention that Deborah, using H, .turnbull, double-L, @adelaide.edu.au. Or maybe you just type in the Google Deborah Turnbull, and then you will see the profile of Professor Deborah, because I think she is one of the famous and also famous researcher in mental health in Australia. All right, well, ladies and gentlemen, we finally come to the end of the session. I would like to thank to the speakers for amazing presentation and all the participants for the very active participation. Last but not least, we want to give a certificate for our 2 speakers, for Professor San Min Wei, or Prof. Black from Asia University, and also Prof. Deborah Turnbull from Adelaide University. Let's, maybe the operator can help to show the e-certificate. All right, this certificate is for Professor San Min Wei, Prof. Black. Okay, maybe we can have screen like half for certificate, half for the Professor Black photos, so we can have documentation. Okay, next, maybe this certificate is for Prof. Deborah Turnbull. Okay, thank you. Maybe before I close the presentation, I would like to highlight some point from the speaker presentation. From the first speakers, I can highlight that 17 point of SDGs, not only a notion or ideas, but also something that should be implemented. And especially for us who are focusing on psychology, we can focusing on the SDG 3s about health and well-being, and then it can be like improving quality of life. And another one relating to metaverse learning, it can be used or applied to maximize the learning effect. And then from Prof. Deborah presentation, digitalization is part of the new era, and then which is included society, education, and also industry. And then in Australia, we know that some website or online or digital services used to serve well-being to increase the well-being, such as the well-being farmers website. And then technology, it kind of like two-sided coins. They have advantage and disadvantage. So we should ensure that technology are updated, monitored, adapted, and integrated, because technology, it is part of harmony and inclusivity, and it is essential as a bedrock to ongoing success of multicultural society in Indonesia and also Australia. All right, give applause to our wonderful speakers and for you all. Thank you, Professor Deborah and Professor Black. See you on another agenda, maybe, or another chance. Salam from Indonesia. Thank you, everyone. Have a nice day. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Next, the conference will lead by Master of Ceremony. Irene, please.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was our second speaker session. Our last agendas are the award ceremony and closing ceremony. We will now announce the best paper and presenter award. For the best presenter goes to Muhammad Haris Syafiq, Muhammad Hasri, Wan Nurul Iza Wan Husin, Nur Hidayah Bima, Nur Alisa Kistina, and Ibrahim Zamhuri from Universitas Pendidikan Sultan Idris Malaysia by the title Decision to Vote in the Society 5.0 Era, Development and Validation of Voting Behavior Scale. The second best presenter goes to Pei Yu from Asia University, Taiwan, by the title A Longitudinal Study on Self-Application and Mental Health. The third best speaker goes to Nurul Muzayyana from University of Muhammadiyah Malang by the title Exploring the Differences in Innovative Work Behavior and Workforce Agility Between Korean and Indonesian Employee, a cross-cultural case study in South Korea FDI company. The next best presenter goes to Xiang Yiwu, Jia Lingsai, Kuo Chung-shu, and Yi Xing-sai from Kaohsiung Medical University, Kaohsiung Municipal Zhuangjiang Primary School, Taiwan, by the title Incidentally Found Effective Positive Intervention Under COVID-19, 3 Good Things Exercise, Make Youth More Optimistic Even Life is Not Satisfied. The next best presenter goes to Naren di Selvatnam, and Oiket from Management and Science University, Malaysia, by the title, We Walk on the Same Corridors of Our University. We will now announce for the best presenters, for the best papers. The best paper goes to Eva Meiza Puspita Dewi, Astiti Tenria Waru Ahmad, and Basti Teteng from University Negeri Makassar, Indonesia, by the title School Wellbeing in the Implementation of Inclusive Education in Indonesian Higher Education. The next best paper goes to Ella Septiana Yusira Hazira Kutsi from University Islam Indonesia, by the title Self-Presentation and Psychological Well-Being Among LinkedIn Users in Indonesia. The next best paper goes to Surahman and Cahyaning Suryaningrum from University of Muhammadiyah Malang, by the title Academic Resilience Profile, Study in Sampling District with the Lowest Human Development Index in East Java. The next best paper goes to Ivana Angelia Natasha Saihatun Nasaroh, Kartika Syahrina Nurul Ayudia, and Ardian Ardi Putra from Universitas Abdurrab Indonesia, by the title Joyous Exploration with the 21st Century, Learning and Innovation Skills Among Vocational School Students. The next best paper goes to Anis Nur Hazwani Sulaiman and Wan Nurul Izawan Husnin from Universitas Pendidikan Sultan Idris Malaysia, by the title Towards Harmonious Living in 5.0 Era, Examining the Influence of Mental Health Literacy and Perceived Social Support on Help-Seeking Attitude. For those papers and names were called, are going to receive our online certificate. Congratulations. Now let's keep on to our next agenda, which is the closing remarks from our Dean of Faculty of Psychology. To Mr. Muhammad Salis Juniordi, PhD, the time is yours.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah di imani Islam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad amma ba'du. Ladies and gentlemen, Alhamdulillah, since the morning we have been here sharing knowledge, discussion in the class, and I saw some classes. They have a quite interesting discussion, even though Alhamdulillah there is no fight inside the class. But hopefully from this international conference, the first thing that we can get is collaboration, interaction, because from this meeting, I meet with a lot of new friends from Vietnam, from Malaysia, from Rio, from UAE, from Taiwan, from also Malaysia, both from MSU and also UPSI. And hopefully this is not the end of our collaboration, because after this international conference, we will talk later on and discuss to strengthen our future collaboration. And the second thing that hopefully we get from this conference is we can contribute to this world, our inspiration that we get from this conference. For example, from the last speaker, we realized that technology always has two sides, positive impact and negative impacts. So how can we use the technology, implement the use of technology wisely is very important for us as the part of how we can adjust with 5.0 society. So I repeat, the first thing is from this meeting we have a new brother, new sister, new collaboration, and the third, hopefully we get a new inspiration that we can implement and contribute to our society. Thank you very much for all your participation. I really appreciate that. Hopefully we can meet again in the next international conference on applied psychology and humanity, the third, in the same month in the 2024. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you for the speech. Now, to close the program, let's recite Hamdalah together. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alamin. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta. Astaghfiruka wa atubu ilaik. Ladies and gentlemen, finally, from the deepest of my heart, I do apologize for any mistakes in presenting this event. Thank you very much for your kind attention. I'm Irina Putri Saliha. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.